हिंदी में या संस्कृत में एक बहुत ही फेमस मेरी फेवरेट सी सेइंग है, यत्र तत्र सर्वत्र, हियर देयर एंड एवरीवेयर. दिस applies appropriately to our today's guest, Dr. Geeta Hegde. She has studied from Harvard. She was teaching at PSG. Then she was director at Velenka, Bangalore. Now she is dean at UPSC Dehradun, India's most premium business school. You can see her rubbing the shoulder with Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, giving advice in the panel of the task force as initiative to promote entrepreneurship and startups. You can see her rubbing shoulders with Kiran Majumdar Shaw, the promoter of Biocon. You can see her giving consultancy to companies like Infosys, TCS, Murugappa, Precall, HDFC, Ernest and Young. You can also see her, traveling across the world, into US, to Canada, to Hong Kong, presenting papers and establishing India's intellectual power all across. We are so honored that out of all her busy schedule of working from home, Dean of India's most premium institute, Dr. Geeta Hegde, has given us some time. Most welcome, ma'am, and thanks a lot for giving the time.
Thank you, Rajat. I think that was a very, very generous introduction. Thank you so much.
Most welcome, ma'am.
It's a pleasure to be with you and talk. When, of course, I could not say no to you because you've been one of very, very enterprising student, past student that I've known, and doing a lot of things which is socially relevant and supporting the society. So I think it's a pleasure and honor to be here talking to you.
So I'll take this opportunity to tell everyone that if they think I know something in marketing and if they think I know something in branding, it is only because of you, of what you taught me during the college.
Yeah, thanks, you should, because I feel so too.
Even the social media marketing which we are doing now, I know you are one of the author of most premium books which is available of the present days social media marketing. You have authored an amazing book on that.
Yeah, on emerging markets, social media marketing in emerging market. That is, we've done a book on, along with my friend Professor Shainesh at IIM Bangalore. So that is one of the hot-selling book. Yeah.
Great. So, ma'am, before we start the talk of the evening, I would like to introduce you with the concept we have come up with. Apart from doing my routine business, I have also started a CSR wing of my company called Rajas Synergy Foundation. Under this foundation, we keep doing certain activities around the year. At present, during this pandemic time, we decided that we will do a talk show, and we named it My Social Responsibility, MSR. And we are requesting eminent personalities from all across the world for a one-to-one dialogue about their opinion and perspective of where we are heading from here and what is happening at present from their perspective. So we are very happy and blessed that you agreed. So if we have to talk about social responsibility, it is a very normal saying that it's either government's job or NGO's job or corporate's job. But the current scenario has showed us that everybody is helping each other. So that is how this term came, my social responsibility. What is your perspective as per your experience of what service scenario is looking now?
Thanks, Rajat. And I think let me congratulate you first and foremost for coming up with this term as my social responsibility. And I think that is extremely relevant and, in today's environment and what is happening during this pandemic. And as you rightly said, there are, we normally think that social responsibility can be only done with the strength or a power of a corporate or an NGO, as you mentioned. But I think today we can showcase that the social responsibility which we do individually is much more impactful and much more out of the heart. What is happening otherwise is that maybe the government is liable to do something, so they are doing, or the organization has to give certain percentage back to the society and it is mandatory, and that is why there is a CSR in every organization now what is happening. And of course there are organizations like Tata's which thrived on giving back to the society, which they still do. But in today's environment, as you can already see, there is a lot of containment what is happening among people with what the individual's capability to give back to the society is perhaps much more, and it gives a lot of satisfaction to the individual themselves whenever we give back to the society. So I think my social responsibility, as you're saying, will gives a lot of meaningful, bears a lot of weight and meaning during this time. I can give you many examples of what's happening. So this perhaps is one of the opportunity for us during this time, for each one of us to understand what we can do to maybe our own relatives, our friends, the community that we live in, and wide and far if we can do. Because of the social media also, we can reach out to people and give back much more to everybody. And as you know, once I can, what we give back is kind of very what we feel happy about, and it is much more impactful, as I said. I can see, for example, there is a neighbor who perhaps understands that there is another house which has a pandemic and which has got into this COVID-19, and what he or she can give back to that particular, because giving a small thing like perhaps making food and giving to them. Or I know cases where there are youngsters who go out and start interacting with elderly people if they need any help. And there are today, you see most of the households do not have support in terms of even their own relatives coming and giving them support, or their own sons and daughters supporting them, because it is lockdown. So you can, as a neighbor or as a friend, you can, or as a youngster, you can go out, even buying groceries, buying vegetables for the elderly people. So there's a lot of things that one can do. To me, that is much more impactful and much more useful, because all of us are in the game today of, winning, or all of us are feeling the pain of the pandemic, and we can give back to everybody, or whoever our friends and relatives and so on and so forth. So I think this is much more impactful than the corporate social responsibility, or even an organization. What an organization can give to the society at different levels. If you want me to give example of an organization or as an educational institution, I can tell what UPES is doing in multiple levels. We are doing something which we call as We Care, in which we are reaching out to every faculty member, every staff, and even every student, and trying to address the various problems that we are facing, or our employees or our students are facing because of this pandemic. So multiple support that we are doing, what we are giving for our student community and also our faculty members, in which we do sessions like yoga sessions. We do support in terms of saying that we are there, for any kind of mental issue, health or mental problems the mental issues that the students or any others are facing because of this pandemic. We are also giving them support in terms of discount in fee structure and so on and so forth. There is something that we've coined in the name of Sanjeevani, where every family, apart from the insurance and other things that the institute is providing otherwise to the faculty and the students, we are also giving where the family can get free medical help from Practo. We've tied up with organizations like Practo, where family members can also get free services, the medical services, and also discount in certain medical, in also getting the medicines and certain examinations like CT scan and other things. So there's many things that the university, UPES, is doing for the faculty and students. Apart from also giving, because we are at Uttarakhand in Dehradun. Our institute is in Uttarakhand, or our campus is in Uttarakhand. So we have given oxygen generators to the government and also to the villages close by, so that we can help, help the people if there is any crisis in terms of medical non-availability of oxygen cylinders or oxygen concentrators. So there are many things that the institute or the university is doing. Interestingly, individually, even faculty members. So now I think that my social response, when you see a larger organization being so good and actually supporting the society, I think that kinds of rubs off on the individuals, people who are working in the organization, and also the students. I know students on their own are reaching out and telling and asking if they're forming small teams and asking if anybody needs help. There are faculty members who are finding opportunities of giving back to not only to the human beings, to animals, and to seeing that human and animals, the ecosystem, the human beings and animals do not go hungry. So there's a lot which everybody is doing. Now that is how organizations or universities is doing. But as I told you, individually, I think this is because earlier in any other situation, it would have been that we are hearing in the news that somebody is facing a problem, or somebody is dying, or somebody is not well, or there is issue. There are people dying elsewhere. But today in this pandemic environment, I think the feeling is there everywhere, and how it is. It as I told you, it is more of what we all feel together. We are in it to fight the pandemic together. So if that is the case, there is a lot of empathy, and there is a lot of from the heart which each one is supporting each other. I think for me, my social responsibility is something that comes from within and from the heart, and that is very, very emotional. So something that comes from the heart and something which is emotional will be felt well by the other person. I think that is something which I feel, Rajat.
And ma'am, apart from the academic domain in which you have excelled yourself, you have also been chairperson to two of India's most premium industry organization confederations. One is you have been women chairperson of CII in the recent past, and you are also a president of FICCI. So in the women wing, All India. So if we talk about your past experience with CII and FICCI, and if you are also rubbing shoulders with them at present, what is it which is changing there in service perspective? What kind of activities CII and FICCI kind of organizations doing now?
So what is happening now is that, yes, I've been with FICCI Flow, FICCI ladies organizations long back, been actively participating and doing, work which is for the growth of women entrepreneurs and women business leaders. And with CII, it's a very long association. I've been the chairperson of CII, Indian Women Network Karnataka, for and also in the state council as a member through being the chairperson for a long time, for a few years. And now I'm also associated with the CII Southern Region task forces and others. So I'm still active with CII in one way or the other. And regarding the services that was done earlier and services that the CII is doing now is really different. And as CII is very, very conscious of what the industry body and what the society needs, and closely works with the government to support the society. And especially the CII Indian Women Network looks at how the women entrepreneurs and women group as such can develop the networking and work, and also support women. And by supporting women, women and the ecosystem in which women are working, I think is supporting the entire or helping the entire family in various ways. So now CII is doing very many activities and very many obviously there is no face-to-face services that the CII or the Indian Women Network can do. So there are a lot of webinars in terms of health and well-being, getting people together in educating the society and educating people about what is happening around. And also, for example, the Young Indians, along with CII, Indian Women Network, and also Young Indians are doing a lot of work in the task force or many areas in such as supporting people in getting hospital beds. Trying to bust the myths on vaccination and what people are. There's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of myths around vaccination and what's happening to whether to vaccinate or no. And then also now the rush and the supply chain issues and not getting vaccination on time. And there are certain myths and how to go about getting vaccination. This is something that CII Young Indians are also doing. CII is again having another task force in which they are connecting with hospitals and supporting with oxygen cylinders and other things. And also generally giving a lot of information on what is right and how to go about, and also getting people such as doctors, nurses, industry, the administration, like the municipal people who are all working as frontline people, and asking them and getting them together and speak in a forum to the community, so that community people know about what is happening and people are aware, informed, and the right kind of action is taken. That is extremely important. And also making everybody feel that they are there to support, or CII, Indian Women Network, or CII is there to support the community and society. In fact, there is a lot of other support that the organizations who are there in CII is also given, like Volvo and IKEA have joined together and set up in Bangalore, at least I can say, a few beds and for such cases. So trying to ease the medical, what is happening, the pressure or trying to support the medical fraternity or medical health system of the state and the country to see that we are able to manage the situation. So this is what CII is also doing.
Ma'am, personally, I have always considered you torchbearer of intellectual women, representative of the women entrepreneurs, or with that thought process. And with your experience with the industry body like FICCI and CII. And with a very recent, while we were talking, suddenly one thing came to my mind that I have seen your previously your post and photographs where you were working or discussing with Kiran Majumdar Shaw. And fortunately, unfortunately, in this today's scenario, suddenly Kiran Majumdar Shaw has become, a spotlight of the media because of a medicine which everybody is searching for. So it will be interesting for everybody to know that the remdesivir for which we were running from pole to post all the time, it is Kiran Majumdar Shaw company which manufactures that remdesivir, and you in the past had opportunity to associated with her. Similarly, how do you see at present, in your experience, how do you see women's role as an enterprising individual changing in pretext of this pandemic scenario? Are they coming out actively?
So no, I won't see. My relationship with them is purely professional, and yes, they are amazing people, and like Kiran Majumdar Shah, who's supported the community, and also she's very active in giving giving her bit of knowledge to how to handle the situation, and she's actively involved, as I see, and I of course follow her in many ways in that sense. And I think women contribute, or women entrepreneurs contribute a lot. Not only them, but there are many others. Even the Bharat Biotech. I can even talk about what Bharat Biotech is doing, because Bharat Biotech is also part of Southern Region CII members, and what Krishna Ella and Suchitra Ella. Suchitra Ella, of course, is the one who was one of the founders of CII. She was the initially when CII Indian Women Network was set up. So I think that way, and actively involved in Bharat Biotech and Covaxin manufacturing. So it's not only them, but there are, of course, they are influencers. They are influencing women, influencing the manufacturing, and also the general handling of the situation much with their thoughts and thought leadership, and also many other ways. But I think there are many other women in different strata who are supporting and helping and support ease the pain and the pressure and the problems that we are facing today. There are quite a few women in their own ways who are doing it. Even that I know people, women who are there are women who have restaurants and set up like that, food catering setups, who are giving free meals. There are women who are doing earlier they used to provide free masks, and others. There are looking after the elderly people. There are many others who are doing that, and in CII even itself, there are very many women entrepreneurs who are participating in the task force of the whatever support the society needs as much as they can. So yeah, there are many.
Yeah. As you are also part of the task force of Uttarakhand Chief Minister for grooming startups and entrepreneurship, were you till now able to groom women entrepreneurs there also? Is there any example?
So that is the Uttarakhand startup initiatives of the state government startup initiatives. I am part of the task force because we have at the university, UPES is a nodal center of the government's one of the nodal centers for the startup initiatives of Uttarakhand. So in that, it is not only about women startups, but any kind of startup which is set up in Uttarakhand goes through us, and we also support those startups from Uttarakhand, which are which are incorporated in Uttarakhand. But scaling is there across the country and the globe. We do support youngsters and students to come up with new ideas, to also accelerate their new ideas, and also see how they can scale their ideas, which are which good ideas or excellent ideas that can be scaled up. We also try and connect them with mentors. There are networking happening through these initiatives. We provide them incubation space and center where they can actually use the incubation facilities for scaling up and others. We provide them the knowledge, the library, the facility in terms of because we have faculty members, subject matter experts. Because the university or the UPS especially has a multidisciplinary subject, different schools, like School of Business, of course, is one of the flagship schools of the university, having more than 100 faculty members and 2,500 students and PhD scholars. So there is a lot of knowledge and intellectual capital here, and that apart from the School of Business, we have School of Engineering, School of Design, School of Health Sciences, School of Computer Science, School of Law. And so all these, so the multidisciplinary subject matter expertise is given to these incubators, and so that they get support from all these. And then through that, they can actually scale their business. So it is not only for women, but it is for all youngsters, essentially for looking at youngsters, but anybody from outside the university also can incubate in our university, in the center, or the incubation center. And if it is, then some of them is being supported by the government of Uttarakhand, in which I am also part of the task force to actually evaluate and see how we can scale it up. So this is what we do through the university.
Ma'am, since the time 2020 started, the academic session of 2020, unfortunate session, I would say, that students are not able to participate physically. How the scenario is changing, and what you people are doing to do something about it?
So, it's not we wish, it's a wishful thinking that we want our students back in the campus, and for any faculty or any university or any institution without students, it's not like a university at all. And it's really unfortunate that we cannot have the students around and the youngsters around. Without having youngsters and the bubbling environment, it's really, really upsetting and really bad. Yes, and for a while we did briefly open up our university, because it was a long time, and it went on for a while, as you know, and it's still continuing. But the faculty were we had opened up for the faculty members, and teaching was happening from online. As you know, every university has moved from the face-to-face teaching to the online mode. At the university and at the School of Business at UPES, our movement from face-to-face to online happened very, very seamlessly, because we had our infrastructure and the LMS and the online learning system, which is called as Blackboard. It is actually one of the best in the world. So this Blackboard was already there. So moving from the regular classroom teaching to an online teaching was very seamless. No session was not happening on time or something like that, because classes continued seamlessly even after we closed down the university. Examination happened on time, especially in the university UPES. And I think even there were universities like Manipal University and another university where they had to postpone the examination because the students were against online examination, but we did a lot of dialogue with the students, and whenever you get the students on board in a discussion or decision making, I think that works very well. So we did the proctor examination also on time, so students could actually get into their job also on time. All that was happening, but it's very sad that there are no students in the campus, and when there is no students in the campus, as you know, for us it is very, very dull. And so that is a bad and unfortunate situation. And without having youngsters and without having the life, it's like almost not having life around you, but you're still going on. So that happened till the second wave, and the second wave is a disaster, as you already know. So the faculty now, even we are not even having we are now closed. The university, of course, is closed, but online classes are all happening on time. Only issue is that I think the students and even the faculty members, it's double effort for the faculty member. I don't know, the students and this community parents should understand that the effort from the university is much more double. And it is not that the expenses are less, but the expenses, the IT expenses, and what is happening is for the university in terms of infrastructure, in terms of IT expenses is much more now, because we need to invest in a lot of technology, including, for example, the proctored examination. As I told you, conducting examination where we have invigilators also sitting and watching online again. So everything that is happening in face-to-face is now made like it is an online environment, and it is made very, very like a simulation, if you may. So that is an additional expense for the university. Hostel facilities and mess and all, the revenue that would have otherwise come from these areas are not coming. So even the university is facing, and the education system is facing a lot of problems. Applications are not happening as on time. Now everything is stretched, everything is moved. So which means that the income that was coming, or the revenue that is coming, is not as normal as it should be. And in a service industry, the highest percentage of expenses is the faculty and the salary. Now you can't send away the faculty. Faculty is needed. So that way, while the revenue is reduced, the expenses is already always there. It is not unlike an IT company or other technology company, or even largely the service industry, the expenses is highly on the people. So education is also a service industry, so the expenses is still there. Large amount of expenses is still there. Also, the issue of the students and the faculty getting fatigued in the online and webinar and all those. So it's a double whammy, if I may say. So and
also, ma'am, being empathetic, if you see, even the families are under medical stress, or their business is not doing good, or the job is not, salary is reduced for service people. So there might be a lot of requests coming to you to consider a recession, concession in the fees or waiver of the fees.
Yeah, that is happening, and we are doing a lot, as much as possible from the university. We are doing in fact, we have reduced. There's a lot of infrastructure fee that has been cut off, and except the tuition fees, of course, because salary and faculty, as I told you, faculty are working doubly hard, because it's not easy to do teach online, because again, you're
what about non-teaching staff then?
Non-teaching staff like services, back-end services like IT, as I told you, IT and others are needed. Yes, people are in the infrastructure, housekeeping, and all those people are maybe, perhaps, they are the ones who are not in the job now, but it's sad that, but we cannot take them off. Security and those kind of people are staff and all, but otherwise the examination and support services like IT and placement and marketing, we are all there and placement is something the placement team or the corporate relation team has to work even harder because of this situation. So so I think that way, so we do give discounts and concession in terms and reduce the fee in the sense, allow the students and the family to give the fees later in installments, and not really on, if they cannot give it on time, then we give them not a waiver, but allow them to give on a longer payback in a longer period of time. We are also giving, if the student has lost the earning member, because there are a few cases such. In that case, we have given a fee waiver to a certain extent to some of our existing students. So there's a lot that the university is also doing. So I think that way, as you told, individually and in group, there is a conscious responsibility in terms of social responsibility. Yeah.
So, Dr. Geeta Hegde, I would take this opportunity to finally conclude our conversation with a final request that I'm sure, apart from your student, there are a lot of my friends who might be listening to this communication from all across the world. So, if you can please give them some tips on how can they become more socially responsible citizens, especially during this pandemic time.
So I think, Rajat, as I already told, the power of individual giving back is perhaps much more than the power of organizations. And we don't know, we should know that the strength of what we give back, or the power of what we give back, is much more. So I think you have rightfully coined it as my social responsibility. And organization used to earlier call it as individual or social responsibility, but the my social responsibility and how we can give back individually is much more impactful during this time. And the satisfaction and the happiness of giving back is much more. And I would say to every youngster and all of us, that is the opportunity that to give back today. And as what is happening in the pandemic is so much, there are in many ways, little or big, I think we can do a lot to the society today, because the empathy is there. We all know, and the situation, what we are facing, we really know what situation each one or each family is facing, because as I told earlier, it was somebody else, but today it is our friends, our close relatives who are facing problems, and we know that, and we are all feeling the pain. And I think so at this time, this is the time to give back. And the happiness that we see, or by giving, or the happiness that and the help that we that the needy gets, is much more through my social responsibility, is what I feel. So I would request all youngsters, because we have the power of making some people happy, and in the end of it all, seeing that the society is, the society is there is some kind of giving to the society, or giving back to the society. So I think I would request everybody to be my socially responsible.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. I tried my best to bundle your 30 years of experience in this 30 minutes of our conversation. I'm sure, like the way I idealize you after listening to this conversation, there'll be many more friends of mine who will learn a lot, and they'll become more responsible now on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thanks, Rajat. Bye.